Good evening, and welcome to the special meeting of council on the matter of the second reading of the rezoning application. This meeting is called to order. The chair notes that we have quorum. This special meeting is convened on the matter of second reading of the rezoning application. A motion to accept the proposed agenda.
So moved.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor, second. Councillor York, thank you. All those in favor? Those opposed? The motion is carried. Thank you. At the June 26th meeting of council, council laid on the table the second reading of the rezoning application pending further information from staff. Council was provided with a package on July 4th. The motion now is that council take from the table the motion to approve second reading of the rezoning application. Someone could move that motion. Councillor York, thank you. And a seconder? Councillor Maxwell, thank you. It has been moved and seconded that council take from the table the motion to approve second reading to the rezoning application. The question is on taking from the table the motion to approve second reading to the rezoning application. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is carried. Thank you. From the July 26th council meeting, we had a motion that council approve second reading of the rezoning application. The motion was moved by Councillor Maxwell, seconded by Deputy Mayor Savage. It has been moved and seconded that council approve second reading of the rezoning application. We are now in discussion, and the floor is open to members of council. Councillor Maxwell.
Thank you. First thing I want to do is thank the residents of MacDougall Heights and other residents as well for bringing the concerns forward to council. When you did that, it allowed staff to work on those concerns, and that all happened prior to any rezoning decisions, and it gave me much more information, which helped in making a decision. So I thank them for speaking up and doing that. It's not an easy decision. It hasn't been an easy decision for council, weighing the desires of the residents and the impact that this development would have for the entire town of Kentville. And so trying to weigh both of those things hasn't been easy. I will say right from the get-go that I will support this rezoning, and I feel the local residents deserve to hear my rationale for supporting it. First, I need to point out that I never weigh into my decision-making at any time whether I may gain votes or whether I may lose votes. That just isn't part of my decision-making process. Because I am elected to represent the entire citizens, all the citizens of the town of Kentville, I'm elected at large and not for any specific area. And so I like to make my decision based on the information that I'm given, on what's going on in the province today, and what will any decision I have to make, how will that impact the town? I have every confidence in our engineer, Dave Bell, and his team. And I believe he will ensure that the water issue will be addressed in the most modern and up-to-date way, and that all government regulations will be strictly followed. I have every confidence. I believe we as a town can address the traffic issues, which I heard as an issue within that area, as we do for all other areas of town. Just from the top of my head, I think that we could add maybe a couple of stop signs to slow down traffic, and there may be other measures out there that we as a community can adopt for for any traffic issues that exist anywhere else in town. And believe me, there are lots of traffic issues that exist everywhere, not just up in MacDougall Heights. I know our recreation director has a lot picked out already and a plan for a recreational part in the subdivision ready to go. So that is going to happen. Our town staff is very sensitive to environmental issues and will work to the best of their ability to protect, preserve the environment. You can just look at Oakdean Park as an example of how we took into consideration the special trees that are up there and how we enhance the environment by the addition of extra trees. The ravine, the gorge, the coming of the beetle that's destroying those trees is utmost concern to the town and our staff. And the tree planting initiative that we've been on with Home Hardware certainly indicates that environment is a top priority for the town of Kentville. And so I believe that those issues will also be addressed as we move along. I believe our active transportation plan will address issues of pedestrian and cyclist safety within the subdivision. Not just within the subdivision, but within the entire town, and making our town more connected and making it safer for everyone, adults, seniors, students, children, to get from one area to another. I think it's unrealistic to expect everything to be done prior to any development taking place. But I believe what we can do is we can prioritize all the concerns that the development, that people have expressed concerning this development as the development progresses. And I believe that after talking to staff, that is exactly what staff plans to do, is address issues as the development progresses. I want to say I also heard concerns about the population of the school. The education is not an area that the town of Kentville looks at, but I would encourage residents to lobby the provincial government and MLA Lore in particular for an addition or a new build when parents perceive the school population has reached its maximum. And that's something that we as a community and if parents lobby, town could support, and we could push that along. Healthcare is also not an area for the town of Kentville to delve into, but recruiting doctors and nurses, in doing that, we need to have housing for them. That's important. If we're going to recruit new doctors and new nurses into this town, we need to have housing for them. The population in our town and in the province is going up. We have more and more immigrants coming in. We need those immigrants for all areas of our service industry and anywhere else. As you see signs up all over the place for "we are hiring." And so it's important, but not all of those people that come in are going to dive right into R1 housing. That's not practical for a lot of those of people that work in our service industry or even in our hospitals and nursing homes and so on. What they need is the multi-use housing, residential housing, and that is what the province has prioritized, and that's what I believe that we as a town need to prioritize if we're going to be successful recruiting professionals and others into our town. We need to grow our residential tax base to be able to afford our present service levels. And I've read on social media the upset about our stormwater and our old storm systems and so on. And it's just, we cannot just rip up that old system and replace it. And yes, there are grants, but they never pay for the entirety of that system. And so we have to, as residents, we have to pay for that through our taxes. And unless we build on our residential tax base, it's going to be a very, very slow process in making those changes, those important changes that need to be made all over our town. We had a flood downtown a few years ago. And so, you know, those types of upgrades are, we need them, and we know we need them, but it's finding the dollars to get them done. For all these reasons and more, I'm going to support this zoning request. I believe it is in the present and future best interest of the town of Kentville. It meets the request of the province to prioritize multi-use residential development. I want to reiterate, I firmly believe in our staff and the developer to deliver a beautiful, modern, accessible, and inclusive development. And I just want to say that I am always available to listen, and I'll give input where I can. It all becomes part of my rationale. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Councillor York.
Thank you. So Councillor Maxwell made some excellent points. And while I agree with a lot of what she's saying, and especially as it relates to our staff, I do have some concerns that we are looking at a big swath of land that seems to be a bit hazy and vague. And I feel like we're looking at a 100-acre puzzle and trying to decide what we're doing with just one piece of that puzzle to see the full picture. So I do have reservations as it relates to what happens next and how this fits in with our future planning, and what the ramifications are of that future planning for our present projects and what we're planning to do next. I do agree that mixed residential housing is the way to move forward, but I do have some concerns with the sort of vague, or what I am interpreting as being vague planning for what's next in that chunk of town. There's a lot of space up there, and we haven't had a whole lot of information about what's next for that other side of the road and what that might imply for this current development's rezoning application and how that might jive with future projects. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Deputy Mayor.
Thank you, Worship. I'm going to read, because I jotted a few things down, and it better allows me to stay on point. We do have a housing crisis in Canada, and the province has confirmed same under the various statements of provincial interest. We certainly do need mixed-use residential neighborhoods. We need more housing. I want to preface my comments by thanking the enormous amount of work that has gone into the staff reports as they pertain to this zoning. And further, I want to thank the citizens of Kentville who took the time to attend the public meeting and the public hearing whilst making their concerns and information known to council and the extended public. All of this information has been very useful in making the following comments and final decision around this rezoning. I understand and appreciate that we have a high percentage of R1 lots and very little R2 and R4. We need a comprehensive vision and a plan for Kentville. I went back to the MPS dated 2019 and I reviewed all of the section, the R5 residential large lot pieces, which essentially means that we've designated it as so, but it means it's to be residential in nature only. The only changes that we've made to this MPS since that time are the exception of October 5th, 2021, where we made some changes to Chapter 5 to increase the number of units permitted in medium density, and also repeal the policy A2 and changes to Chapter 7 to better define highway commercial zone on Park Street. Section 15 of the MPS speaks of development agreements, pages 74 through 77. We need to expand on this section of the MPS. At this time, there is no supporting language to consider multi-unit dwellings by development agreement. This, I believe, should be the case. This issue is the issue is the town is growing, and this is a living document, and it must grow with it. And further, it must continue to anticipate growth. In fact, I believe we need to take a good hard look at where we as a council want to take the town of Kentville. We are into year 4 of no changes with the MPS, with the exceptions of the noted ones that I said. And I believe that we can do better. We're growing year over year, a vicinity of 6% year over year, and we're fortunate to be a growing town, and I want to see our town grow more. We're being asked to make a decision for the future. In my opinion, I don't feel that we have a well-thought-out, planned approach. I come back to the extensive amount of R5 lands. We do have a vision of an unelected developer, but that is our role and the staff's role. I feel that the MPS should be a top priority of the next council. That said, we have another year and should, as a result of this exercise, make it a priority now. Engage the planning department we have now in conjunction with anticipated new staff to be added, organize a planning advisory committee. I feel that this rezoning is premature in as much as we've not carried out necessary and prudent revisions. We are on the brink of having a large extension of Kentville of the announcement of the ICIP grant for the Donny Hills connector. The south side of this arterial road will form perhaps 50% more in population. This Don Hills connector will connect the business park to Prospect and eventually to Chester. We need a secondary plan, and it should be well thought out. It should be a well thought out, comprehensive planned approach. Excuse me. I have every confidence that our current and soon to be expanding planning team will make recommendations to council that will propel us further as a town in a controlled manner of growth. I like controlled growth. I'm not a fan of reactionary measures, and I feel strongly that parts of this rezoning are better done in different phases. R4 high density, in my opinion, should be broken out. And I want to make it clear that even for me to make that comment is a tad more than I wish to say as it relates to the rezoning, as I maintain we need a secondary plan and more thought into our MPS. I want to speak briefly on the subdivision stage, tentative being the operative word. Green space will be negotiated at the tentative stage. I want and I need more comfort when thinking about what site plan approvals look and feel like. AT sidewalks, we have a plan in place, but we need to interlock this plan with the secondary plan for these future residential lands. Stormwater management, earlier on I spoke of Kentville's topography in the past, and it remains an area that requires more for me. I understand net zero and the amount of runoff, but I'm not totally convinced we have this under control. The slope map clearly indicated that we have a great deal of 25% or more sloping, but I feel this is an area that perhaps needs more attention. When I combine all of my thoughts and rationales together, I come up with words like reactive, fragmented, and uncontrolled growth. The decision of today is not about the present council, but rather for future councils who will see through the great expansions of this town. It is for this reason, and these reasons noted above, that I will not be supporting the second reading for the zoning of PID 5524776. Thank you.
Councillor Gerard. Oh, sorry.
I, like Councillor York and Deputy Mayor, have some questions around this. I think in looking at the plan, the only thing it's missing is development agreements, where it can put everyone's mind at ease. We've been planning on this road for the last 10 years, and there's been no thought to what we're gonna fill in with structures and housing and commercial and stuff like that. And at the last meeting, I said, I'd like to see an overall vision of what's gonna be planned out up there. And I think that needs to happen. I think Kentville needs to, whether it be this council and staff, and I know that we've got the people that can do it, to have a vision to go, you know what, where are we headed for the next 20 years, 30 years? So yeah, I really would like to see development agreements, and maybe I'm totally wrong, but I know that they're in our MPS in a limited way, but everything that goes through a development agreement comes back to council, I believe. So I don't think that there's any reason why we have to rewrite the book. I could be wrong. But yeah, that's one thing I would really like to see with this development is DAs. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? Councillor Maxwell?
Well, thank you. Just in a rebuttal a little bit, I don't think that this is a reactionary type of decision at all. I think that R5 is designated for residential development. This is someone who owns the land, who wants to put on a residential development. Yes, we can do future planning. There's no guarantee in future planning that it's going to come out the way that we want it to come out, because we don't own that land, and the landowners will sell it to whoever, and they will come to us to rezone if they don't like any zoning we put on it. So we can do as much future planning as we want to, but there's no guarantee that tomorrow it's not all going to change. I'm a little disappointed when we're delaying housing, knowing full well that housing is what we need. We need housing. And anybody who's walked through our town knows there's not many places for housing. And delaying housing, I just think it doesn't look good. It's R5, it's designated R5, residential, for residential use. If we want to put up some C1, commercial use along that road, we can do that. But if the landowner decides they don't want C1, they want to keep it R5 or R4 or R3 or R2, that's exactly what it's going to stay as. So I don't think that my decision, although maybe contradictory to some of my colleagues, is in anywhere near reactionary. I have thought about this and weighed out the pros and the cons. And to say that this is all reactionary, I take a bit of exception to. And I just think we need to look at what this town needs, and delaying, I think is weak. Thank you.
Thank you. Deputy Mayor?
Thank you, Your Worship. When I use the word like reactive and the word fragmented and the word uncontrolled growth, I use those words as I interpret the information that I have at hand. Thank you.
Thank you. Are there any further comments? All right, if there are none, I have a couple. I just want to remind council that the question is with regards to rezoning of the property. All the other matters will be mitigated as the subdivision plan comes together with planning and engineering over the coming months. I also want to remind council that C&D Community Design has recommended that council approve the rezoning and subdivision applications. And this is an opportunity for the town of Kentville to meet the growing housing needs of our province and to ensure the continued growth and prosperity of Kentville. Additionally, we are right on with the statement of provincial interest on housing, specifically on mixed-use housing. If there are no further comments, then I will call the question. Are you ready for the question? The question is on approval of the motion to approve second reading of the rezoning application. Voting is now open. Voting is now closed. And the motion is defeated. As the agenda has been completed, the special council meeting is adjourned and the time is 5:24. Thank you. Our next meeting